welcome to Agrarian Matters. I appreciate you coming on and talking with me.
Well, I'm honored to be here.
Thanks, Tom. So one of the first things that I never have asked you about before is actually how you got started farming. Like even as did you grow up as a kid farming?
No, I grew up in suburbia in a housing project, and my dad had a garden out back and grew a few tomatoes and strawberries a few years. And basically, instructions to us kids was to stay out of the garden, which is too bad in a way, but we also grew roses, rosehip hedges. What do you call them? Multiflora roses.
Oh, really?
Put hedges around the whole yard.
Yeah.
So planting those was an educational experience. I also transplanted some cuttings from those into a hedge extension that I did.
Oh.
So I learned a little bit, but that was all before I left home at 20.
Yeah.
So from then until 35, I was with a group of people that started we moved. There was a collective of us that were in Boston at the time, and
Yeah.
we decided to move to the country. That seemed to be the trend going in the late 60s.
Yeah.
So we looked around Vermont, couldn't find a spot, so we finally found a spot in Maine and moved to it. It was the top of a hill with 12 acres of blueberries on it.
Oh, nice.
So between having like 18 people to feed, we had a big garden and then stopped for a few weeks during August and raked 6 tons of blueberries. So that got me into the swing of agriculture a little bit, much more than I'd ever done before.
Sure.
And of that group, some people really liked it, and other people barely tolerated it.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I was bitten by the bug, and a few years later, I got the chance to join an actual ongoing farm. A couple who had actually decided that farming was the thing they wanted to do, and they were trying to figure out how to make a living from it. And they had tried several things. They tried growing wheat, and the equipment and the price of the final harvested product, they realized that wasn't the way to do it. Not in the scale they were doing. The scale they were doing was 5 acres.
Yep.
Yeah. So when we finally, when I got there, we were growing shallots for Johnny's.
Yeah.
For their seed operation. And we grew root crops and squashes. So we'd get the ground ready in the spring and plant everything by middle of June. Everything was all planted, and there wasn't a whole lot to do besides a bit of weeding until middle of August when it was shallot harvesting time. So then we'd pull shallots and dry those, and then start harvesting the squash and digging the rutabagas and carrots and parsnips and so forth.
Yeah.
And then we would put those in the storage room in the barn and sell them all during the fall.
Yep.
And that was a system that worked, but the cash flow was terrible. So every year we'd have to get a loan in the spring to buy fuel and seeds and so forth. And then wait until, September to get paid anything.
Yep.
So after doing that for a couple of years, we thought, well, maybe we could grow something like summer crops that we could harvest and go to a farmer's market with. So Ben started doing that, my partner there. In '82, he went to the Camden Farmers Market when Camden Farmers Market was a few years after it really getting going.
Yep.
And that worked great. So next year we grew even more stuff for the summer market, as well as keeping the fall markets. And it turned out that we had grown too much for the Camden market. So I started going to the Brewer Farmers Market in 1983.
Yep.
In August, I started that market. And
the Brewer Farmers Market?
Yeah. I started going there. It was very informal and disorganized. There was one person that would come around and collect the 25 cents a day dues.
Oh, my goodness.
And that paid for an ad in the Bangor Daily, a classified ad. And so basically, we did that, get more and more developed doing that over the next 10 years, and scaled back the fall harvested crops, the Johnny shallots and all the squashes and root crops, scale those back quite a bit. And basically relied mostly on the going to farmers markets, because we would still grow squashes and root crops, except now we could sell them at the farmers market and get not only get retail price for them instead of wholesale price, but also get paid as soon as we sold them, as opposed to getting paid weeks later. So that was delightful. And eventually, that farm, the partners broke up.
Oh.
So meanwhile, I had met Lois, and we had we moved to Pittsfield and started our own farm here, Snakeroot Organic Farm, on the Snakeroot Road in 1995.
95.
Yeah, we for months we thought about what are we going to call our new farm.
Yep.
And we had come up with all these weird ideas, and finally I realized one of the best ways to name a farm is so that everybody knows where it is, and that it's unique and a unique name. And because we were on the Snakeroot Road, that sort of fell into our laps.
Yeah.
And we called it an organic farm just to distinguish it from just another farm.
Sure.
And in '95, that was really significant, and there weren't that many organic farms.
Yeah, yeah.
This was before the USDA had even adopted organic standards.
Before it was like an official.
Yeah, it was all state based, and in Maine it was MOFGA.
Yeah.
So
I remember you mentioned that to me also years ago when we started working on the website, and my first farm was a heritage farm.
Yeah.
And it was just such a generic name. There's probably 1 million heritage farms out there. And after a while, it just got to be so hard for folks to recognize us or find us. And then I moved farms, and we moved on to Souter Station Lane. And the same thing. So our farm was built by the Souders, and we adopted Souter Station Farm, and that made way more sense. Unique and easy to find.
Yeah. For the local people, especially.
Oh yeah, 100%. So you went back a ways. So,
but I hadn't really done any serious farming until I was 35 and moved on to the vegetable farm.
Yeah. So when were you born?
46.
46.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was that part of that back to the land movement.
In the late 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
71 is when we moved up.
So what was farming like? Do you remember what it was like in the area when you were younger? Like, because there was
before we had into farming.
Well, like in the 30s we had like the Dust Bowls, and then there was starting to be some soil conservation service trying to put forward some initiatives to change kind of farm practices. Right. But we're coming out of the 40s. Like, do you remember practices or anything that was going on around that time that are different than today, or anything that stands out?
DDT was developed during the Second World War to so that get lights off the soldiers, basically. Right. And, that continued on to get insects off of sheep and so forth after the war.
Oh, interesting.
And it became a universal thing. As to, DDT, put it everywhere, it works.
Yep.
And that was at a time when people didn't actually understand how insect evolution works. And when DDT became less effective over time against the target species, they just developed new poisons. And that was, the latest thing is, science to get better poisons that are more effective, and that the insects take longer to get develop resistance to.
Right, right.
And that always seemed rather odd to me that that would be the system. And then when we moved onto the land, we had to start making decisions for ourselves. We had already been in the natural foods movement in the 60s in Boston, and we're trying to eat more healthy. And so when we became very interested in learning about what is actually on foods, being sprayed on foods, and what are these residues that we're getting, and do we want to do that in our own garden? So we decided that we just wanted to try growing organically. So we had our blueberries sprayed the first year, aerial spray with calcium arsenate,
Okay.
because it had been done for years, and that's what we were told. That's the way to do it.
Just the way it's been done.
Because if they find maggots in the blueberries, they won't take them at the factory.
Oh,
So you've got to do it to kill the fruit flies,
yeah.
so that they don't lay eggs in the blueberries, and the blueberries then have maggots in them. And
Yep.
at the time, it was mostly done as canning. Most of the blueberries were canned, not frozen. They
Sure.
were just getting into freezing. But
interesting.
when you open a can of blueberries, if you see maggots floating on the top, then you're not going to buy that brand again.
Yeah.
So from the canning factories, it was quite the rule of thumb, the law. If you wanted to sell us berries, you had to make sure they were sprayed, and we would actually pay for the spraying and pay to have it done, and arrange to have it done, and we just deduct it from what we owed you for the blueberries.
Oh,
So
that's what they're doing then.
the next year we didn't do that. We didn't spray them at all and send them in, and they were fine.
Yep.
But we also started selling them roadside,
Oh, yep.
and we put them because at the time nobody was selling low bush blueberries into the fresh market. They were all basically pretty large, acres and acres of blueberries,
Yep.
and mostly down east. But there were quite a few hilltops in the Belfast and Western Maine area that had several acres of blueberries on the meats, but they were all going to local canneries, and so we were one of the first ones to do a major effort. We did roadside in a few places. We went to the Camden farmers market a few times. The trouble was roadside was really hit and miss, just like our being there was hit and miss. So the sales were hit and miss too. So we could never actually develop a good system. We did. Our marketing was simply, let's try to sell people stuff that they would like but don't have access to,
Right.
without actually thinking about, well, how are we going to find those people as customers.
Marketing plan.
So the marketing didn't go beyond packaging. So we would make the rounds in Augusta and a few other towns of the small stores.
Yeah.
Mostly Shigears, which was a independent supermarket in Augusta at the time.
Yeah.
They would buy them, and a few small stores, mom and pop stores.
Yeah.
They'd buy a case of 8 quarts. And also our blueberries in quarts, and all the high bush blueberries were all in pints.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So that also distinguished them.
Nice.
But we were raking berries and putting them through a field winnower, and that, depending on what patch we were raking, sometimes they didn't look so good. They had a lot of leaves and green berry clumps in them and so forth. So quality maintenance became a problem. Sometimes we weren't producing any berries to this day because of the part of the field we were raking.
Yep.
The quality just wasn't good enough for retail, so we couldn't really retail them. They'd have to all go to the factory.
Yep. Yep.
So that our inability to produce a quality product and knowing how to market it was, because we were just, kids from the suburbs and the cities.
Sure.
We didn't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody had any training in any of this stuff. It was a seat of the pants kind of operation.
So what led to that? Like, before the back to the land movement, was there a lot more like family gardens going on?
Well, during the Second World War in the early 1940s, there was a big push to have what's called a victory garden.
That's what I was thinking.
So it became patriotic that everybody would have a garden in their whatever space they had, could grow anything in.
Yep.
Even if it was just a couple of tomato plants.
Right.
And once the war was over, people didn't have to do that anymore. So a lot of people that didn't really like doing it.
Gotcha.
And also there were even though a lot of the GIs came back, a lot of them also through the GI Bill, got a chance to go to college, which means they weren't totally in the workforce right away.
Right.
But the overall workforce was getting higher skills because so many of these guys were going to college.
Yep.
So there was a lot of the industry was really picking up that had been war industry is now changing over to consumer goods.
Yep.
And as a result, there was a lot of jobs.
Sure.
And So people just the people that didn't like the garden or didn't
Yep.
have a bug for it themselves, they got out of it.
Yep.
So there weren't that many. There was still gardening going on.
Right.
I remember my mother saying to me that when she was a kid in the 20s and 30s, my granddad, her dad, had grew beans in the backyard
Yeah.
for the family and to sell.
Right.
Green beans.
Yep.
And she hated picking beans. And that's the only thing I remember her saying about her gardening experience, is she hated picking green beans.
Uh-huh.
So and I imagine, no, she was forced to as a girl
Sure.
to do that. And
Yep.
so when I get into farming, she just like, okay, if that's what he wants to do.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm not going to pick beans.
Yeah. Well, I just kind of scaling out a little bit because I've been thinking about that a lot. I feel like during that period is also like kind of the rise of convenience. We're getting microwaves and refrigerators and TVs and this
Well, microwaves are like 60s,
that neighborhood.
Mid to late 60s, yeah.
Yeah. It's like even right up to the present day.
The first radar ranges only came onto market, and they were like $3,000 to $5,000 in the early 60s.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's basically because people discovered that radar could cook things.
Yeah, that whole rise when it comes up, like when I was growing up, I remember, so farming wasn't a big part of my life growing up, but I remember like, it seems like a lot of neighbors would have gardens and family, but it was always kind of like more of an afterthought maybe, or maybe I wasn't paying attention when I was younger. Like they were around, and a lot of rural folks always had some level of a garden, but it wasn't like a...
Yeah, the fact that you and I weren't paying attention when we were kids testifies to how unimportant it was to our parents.
That's what I'm wondering.
And how it was like not a big deal. You didn't really have to have a garden. You did it because it was fun.
Right.
It was a hobby.
Yeah.
And although there were still some big families around that grew, an acre-sized garden, because they had 6 to 8 kids, and they got to feed them all, and they're also... You had the weeders right here at home. So.
But then you've got that period where you're the back to the land movement, where there's like a relative push back towards agriculture. And I feel like now there's a bit of that as well. Like a lot of people are starting to go back towards that self-sufficiency a little bit more.
The back to the land was more, there was a, you characterized it as back to agriculture, and what it was actually about was back to rural living, and that for a lot of folks that included homesteading.
Okay, yeah.
For others, it included having their country home be a bedroom, and they would commute to the city. And this was much easier after the late 50s when the interstate system was created, because it meant you could go 60 miles an hour between your house and your job in the city and back again really fast. So you'd spend a half an hour commuting and have this great job, but live in the country where the taxes were low and the lifestyle was better and the weekends were your own.
It's very practical.
Well, it was a move, a cultural move. Now, some people actually did want to do agriculture and move back, but that was a segment. I remember when our group in Boston initially split up, some of them stayed in Boston, like I was one of those, and some of them moved to southern New Hampshire.
Okay.
Now, southern New Hampshire, it was in the town of Kingston, not what was Route 125 went from Massachusetts right up into there, and it was a fairly fast road, especially because there weren't as many people as there are now, so the traffic wasn't as bad. But a lot of people just lived up there and commuted to jobs in the Boston area.
Sure.
And it was a hell of a commute, but they get to live in the country.
Sure.
So when the rest of us decided that group that moved to southern New Hampshire and the group that stayed in Boston, they recombined some of the folks and moved so far away from the city that we couldn't possibly commute. So that's where we lived. We moved to Montville, Maine.
Yep.
And the fact that Montville is between freedom and liberty didn't hurt in terms of our sense of where we were moving to.
I love that.
And it turns out that Boston was far too far to commute to, but you could go there for a winter job.
Yep.
Or you could commute to Belfast.
Sure.
So there was still, agriculture was not the only option for a lot of folks.
Yep.
And some people, get into, other local jobs, artistry type things.
So maybe it's more of that sentiment of
But
getting back to a rural living, so you have the potential to do for yourself if need be.
right,
That
yeah, and a lot of people, the idea of homesteading where they could grow a good deal of their food and have more control over their lives was the key feature of why they want to do it.
Do you feel like that's happening again? Like in this day and age, there's more people kind of moving back to more of a homesteading.
Yeah, over the past 5 years or so, there have been a lot more new farms of all kinds. Not, vegetable farms are fairly easy.
Yep.
You don't need to know a lot. You can get a good deal of what you know from the seed catalog, what you need to know from a seed catalog, and from just your basic talking to friends.
Yep.
But a lot of people are doing animals.
Yeah.
Goats especially because they're low cost, compared to a lot of critters. They take less space. And also it's a niche market.
Yep.
If you do cows, then cows are a big commodity market.
Yeah.
Cow products, beef and milk.
Yep.
They're products that have like a lot of production and low commodity prices.
Yep.
So you have to compete with if you get into that niche at all. So, but some people do, and they say, well, okay, there can't be 10,000 gourmet cheese makers in the state, but there can be 1,000.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to be one of those. So it that's a niche that could get overcrowded quickly.
Yep.
Except that it ain't easy.
Right.
Right, and that's what a lot of people get into it for a couple of years and say, "Oh well, okay, I'll keep one goat as a pet because I do like goats." But just trying to make a living from it is, more than the brochure described.
The turnover is high. Like
It tends to be high, which keeps the numbers down.
yeah, I've only been at it maybe 10 years now, and like I've definitely seen like this is the first year that I'm really scaling back a little bit.
Yeah.
It's that same thing, like trying to make enough things work that, given the constraints that I have, I've got to scale back for a little while.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to kind of have a breath of fresh air and like have that move. I can go around and do different things.
Yeah.
But I've seen in just my 10 years of really diving into farming, I've seen a lot of farms come and go, at least as farming as a primary occupation.
Yeah.
Like if they're trying to do it to make a living, a lot of those come and go quick, and a lot of those will do what you're saying, where they start out farming, and now it's like a hobby, it's a sideline, they get another job. They still have their foot in agriculture somehow, but maybe not doing it as their primary gig.
And you don't know how they're going to evolve over the years. It could be their sense of what they're doing is scaling back, maybe having outside jobs so they can build their capital infrastructure in their place so that later on they can do it right. Because at first they did it and they didn't really know what they were doing, and they got one of the smartest pieces of advice I ever heard from a fellow farmer was when you try new stuff, you always want to try to fail small. When you try something new, try it in a small scale, because it's easier to fail at a small scale, easier on you to fail at a small scale than if you fail at a big scale.
Absolutely.
Big scale failures are much harder to recover from. Small scale failures, even this, I've been doing this for like over 35, 45 years now, and I still try stuff. And I try it on a small scale first, see if it works. And then see if I think it's scalable based on how I did the first year or two. And then sometimes it takes, like planting grapes. You plant them, you don't know if it's going to work for 10 years until the grapes start to produce, and then you try to sell for them. So then okay, this works great. I'm going to plant some more. So it's going to be another 10 years before, So some of these trials and to see if it works take a while.
And sometimes you just got to scratch an itch. You just got to go try something and see. Well, I feel like that same thing too with when we first met and you were helping my website and you were teaching me how to code. And that was super beneficial. Like I really appreciate the insights from that. But I also learned that I don't want to learn to code. It's like I know my limitations, and I learned enough to get. I feel that way about chemistry. Like I never really dove deep into chemistry. I got enough exposure where like if I need to look up the answer, I kind of know which direction to go to look.
And
But
that's important.
you know,
One of the most important things I learned in college was how to teach myself stuff. You know, and that you don't need a tutor always. All you need to do is to know where to look. I wanted to know. We started getting into sweet potatoes about 6 years ago,
yeah,
and I wanted to know how to do it. And I talked to a few people, and one woman was starting them by poking toothpicks in them and setting them in a glass of water, the same way you do avocado pits.
okay, yeah,
And they would grow the slips, which would break off the plant. So that worked, but on a very small scale. And I wanted to grow, you know, several hundred square feet of sweet potatoes for my first attempt.
yeah,
So I knew that growing in a small scale like that wasn't trying to scale it up. It was a system that wouldn't scale.
gotcha.
So I went into YouTube and looked for how to plant sweet potatoes and found this guy in Tennessee who describing the way his pappy did it. And the seasons were all different, but the system was the same.
Gotcha.
That I adopted.
Yep.
Was to start them in a cold frame, put a bunch of them right next to each other, shoulder to shoulder, just cover the bottom of the cold frame, and then put leaf mold or compost on top of that, and just close it down, just let them sprout in there. He did a cold frame because he was trying to start them early.
Oh, yeah.
What we do is we just do it in the house.
Oh.
In crates with plastic bags in the crates, so we can stack the crates up until they sprout.
Oh, that's cool.
So we got a crate of leaf mold or potting soil in there, and that worked great. We've done it for a couple of years now. Every single sweet potato gives you like up to a dozen slips, they call them, because they slip off the plant. The sprout comes off the plant, and the leaves on top, and where it came off the plant, there's a whole bunch of roots.
Oh, interesting.
So you break that slip off from the plant, and you've got this little stem of a stalk with leaves on top and roots on the bottom, and you plant that, and it keeps growing until it makes sweet potatoes.
Oh, that's cool.
The season, it's a long season, so we do it in the greenhouse just to increase their season length, so we can put them in earlier and leave them longer. And we've also discovered just last year that if we have a deal with the town of Pittsfield. If you rake your leaves in the fall, you try to take them to the transfer station, they won't take them, they'll send you up to the organic farm. So everybody in town comes to us with their leaves, either in bags or in loose leaves, and we have this big pile of leaves in the fall, which we use to make a compost with and use for mulching the gardens with. But at the end of every year, there's always a pile of leaves left over, so we just push that further back and make room for this year's leaves coming in. Now, as we push it back, it becomes leaf mold. So we've got some leaf piles of leaves that are totally turned into leaf mold. They're like 2 years old.
Oh, nice.
We planted some of our slips in there, and we get the biggest sweet potato from
Is that right?
It's not that they had a season extension, but they had ideal growing conditions in terms of their fertility, because they were growing in leaf mold. So we're going to do a lot more of that this year. And it was like, I think I'll try this. And that worked. And I just tried it with one or two, and it worked great, so I'm going to try it with a whole bunch more this coming year.
Yeah, it's good to experiment and try different things out, because you never know what might happen. It might be a positive thing or a negative. So going back just a little ways, you mentioned the farmers markets back in the 80s. Like, we're 82 and 83, there was a Camden, and you mentioned starting Brewer. I started going to Brewer. Brewer is one of the oldest farmers markets in the state. There are antique pictures of Haymarket Square in Bangor, where they had all these horse-drawn carts lined up, and some of them were selling hay, because when you lived in the city, you had to buy hay from somebody in the country who brought it in, so you could feed your horses. Now, not to go off on too much of a tangent, but
the Bangor Brewer Market is one of the oldest ones. Portland is probably between Portland and Bangor. They vie for who's the oldest market.
So when did the this may be a different stretch, but when did the Bangor Mall come in? Because for a while that used to be cow pastures. And then there was always
that was late 60s.
Okay,
so that was built. I remember when we moved to Maine in '71. It was brand new. Not brand new, but
but
it was
getting going.
the latest thing.
So there's really just the Bangor Brewer farmers market around the time that you're starting to sell at them. Then, like there wasn't much in between there. Then, between like the time that the farmer by the time the Bangor Mall showed up, and Bangor is becoming much more urbanized. There's probably not many farmers markets at that time until like the Bangor Brewer one that you mentioned
Well, all the
starts
farmers
up.
were coming in from outside like they always had.
Right,
There were a few farms in the city, and there still are,
right.
but they tend to be more on the outskirts or on like
Gotcha.
weird roads that aren't particularly good for commercial access.
Yeah.
You know, so that I mean, if you look at any city, there are some places that real estate developers drool over, and there's other places that theoretically just as good, but actually they're off the beaten path too much, or and it has nothing to do with soil quality because all they're looking for is location.
Yep.
So some of those are farms and some of them are not
Yep.
that get taken over. There should be a law that farms are, you cannot convert a farm to any other use. And if we don't have a law like that, then we're going to be in trouble.
I've seen lots and lots of pasture and haylands that have gone up for either development or solar farms.
Solar farms are interesting. The latest thing on solar farms is if you have them, you're not going to pave it and then put solar panels in. You're going to put it on ground. That ground is going to grow grass. You're going to have to mow the grass around there. Otherwise, it's going to be getting up onto your panels.
Yep.
So a lot of people bring sheep in.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
And it's basically this farm is growing electricity and sheep on the same piece of ground.
Yep.
Now, the ground for grass production-wise isn't as good if there were no solar panels there.
Right.
But if you combine the solar panels with the sheep, then the productivity of the land is far greater than it was before.
Just than it was.
And using the sheep means you don't have to use, labor and fossil fuels and so forth to mow the grass around the panels.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's so there are possibilities that of symbiotic relationships that work really good, except that somebody who wants to install solar panels isn't necessarily a sheep farmer.
Right.
So there has to be a combination of skills, of interests that when combined serve the public interest much better than each interest alone trying to reach its goals. Sometimes that works out great for that interest, but not so good for the public in general.
Yeah, it's been interesting because I've seen them go up, and some, they get big stockade fences around them, and it closes off what wildlife would have come through there. Or you get like a very niche situation where the sheep farmers can utilize it, but there's not a lot. Like you couldn't really run crops through there. Like it's a very narrow limitation, but there is still some opportunities for like the sheep farmers. But at the same time, you see that
sheep,
pasture.
You can't use goats because goats like to climb on things.
Right.
Sheep don't.
Yeah.
So
that kind of, it's still that loss. Like it's very niched what that purpose is now. Hello, little rascal. And like, so whatever that niche for it, kind of seeing that, it's almost like when it goes up for buildings, you're like, well, that can never be pasture land for other species or cropland in the future. It's like, and I'm seeing more, it's kind of coincided with a lot of farms in general. Like say in Winterport, there's like 5 farms now. And like those old hay fields, after a while, they just get sold. And all of a sudden they're getting developments, like homes being built on them. And you just see them shrink more and more.
And that has to do with the fact that the economy is based on the dollar, on how much money can a certain commodity bring. Like they think of land as a commodity, and that's just a wrong-headed way of thinking. It's land isn't a commodity. And when you treat land as a commodity, it's like a terminal disease that our culture has to think that way. And if it's you have to respect what the land can do, and individual nuclear housing is not necessarily the best way to house people. It's efficient in the sense of you can sell those people a lot more stuff because everybody's going to have their own driveway, their own, their own utilities.
Yep.
Everything has to be, you get to sell you one, sell the next person one, sell the next person one.
Yeah.
I'm amazed at the University of Maine. The buildings there don't all have their own heating system.
Oh.
You would think all these buildings in Maine, they don't have their
Yeah.
heating system. Well, they do, but it's a shared heating system. On one corner of the campus, they have what's called a steam plant
Yep.
that it now uses oil, and they're converting it to wood chips over the next few years.
Interesting.
But what they do is they make steam and they pipe it to all the buildings on campus. So all the buildings on campus have, a valve they turn on, they get steam heat.
Yeah.
So, and steam heat is really efficient.
Yeah.
So that's a way of doing it on the university, because it was centrally planned.
Yeah.
The whole thing. Let's look at how we want to do this big campus of buildings. How we want to best serve that whole community.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that everyone has to have its own heating plant. It means you have one heating plant on the side, and you then heat the whole campus with it.
Yep.
So to me, that makes just lots more sense. And that same, if any town or any housing development had that same theory in mind, they would have one big plant that's much more efficient than 100 small plants.
Sure.
That is then just piping the heat underground
Yep.
to all the individual buildings. So there's all kinds of things like that could be instituted if you didn't want to try to maximize the amount of money you could extract from a system. I mean, it's my political philosophy anyway.
Because I've actually been thinking about a lot as I've been doing Agrarian Matters and thinking about how, if I were to redesign society, how it might look.
Yeah.
And like,
Well, we're going to have to do that pretty soon.
I
think so.
We just can't keep growing exponentially with no end in sight.
But there's not too many mainstream economists that believe that. They may believe it in theory, but in practicality, they don't believe it.
Yeah.
Right? They don't practice like they believe it.
Right.
And that's a major problem. And what's happening in society today, the collapsing of so many institutions, I think is a direct result of having a focus on the wrong kinds of values.
So where are we heading in so you've got a long history of seeing, how old are you now, Tom?
How old am I? 78.
78.
I had to stop and calculate it the other day. I totally forgot, which is probably a symptom of how old I am.
So that's a long time of history going through from the 40s up till now. What are your thoughts on the next 78 years?
Well, the American empire is collapsing, and the collapse of empires is never pretty.
Right.
Whether it's the British Empire or the Roman Empire or the Mongol Empire, and when they, at their height, they seem totally invincible. But once they're over the peak and they start to disintegrate, and the disintegration usually comes from within. So I see that continuing to play out.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if someday Americans didn't welcome Chinese intervention in our domestic affairs. And I mean, if you look at what China's doing today, human rights is limited, especially if you're in some of the minorities and mostly the minorities that have the biggest problem with the Chinese are the religious minorities. In other words, the people who believe in fantastic things and do and act accordingly. And the Chinese are much too practical. The Han Chinese that are in control, the CCP. They're much too practical to allow for fantasies to rule the way they govern. So Americans think of themselves as practical, but there's so many Americans that are caught up in and fantasies about how the world works. Either pseudoscience or religion or superstitions of one kind or another.
Yeah.
If you look at any newspaper, you'll see there's a horoscope in it. I like to look at the horoscope and look at somebody not my sign.
Yeah.
And read it as though it were mine.
Yeah.
Say, oh, that seems to work.
It does.
Because they're written in a general way, because they're not trying to actually describe anything, but they want to make you think they are. And it's a skill. It's the skill of a scam artist, of a con man, who can describe to you exactly what you want in a way that you will then buy something. You buy this newspaper because you want to see what tomorrow's horoscope is, or buy, you'll tithe to your church because they want to buy their pastor a new jet. So I don't know. If 78 years, I think the individual transportation modes will be rare. People will not. But public transportation will be widespread.
Yeah.
I mean, if there was a bus going down the Snakeroot Road, or a tram going down the Snakeroot Road, every hour.
Yeah.
Why would I need a car?
Yep.
I'd go into town that way.
Yep.
But you see, industry wouldn't like that, because once the system's in place, it doesn't earn money anymore. The fare money just keeps the thing operating.
Right.
Whereas if everybody has their own car, then they're going to need a new car in a few years, and plus you're selling them gas and parts all the time. So it's just like there's so many things we take for granted in the U.S. That are crazy.
Yep.
And they're embedded in our culture, and either we're going to that will I don't know how to say it. That whole system's going to come apart, and people who are disbelieving of its coming apart as it comes apart are going to be hurt the most and be the angriest, because they're going to feel they're blindsided, even though for the past 50 to 100 years people have been telling them this is going to happen, this is not sustainable, and there will be people even nodding their heads, yeah, it's not sustainable, but when shit hits the fan, then they're going to act like, who could have predicted this?
Yep.
Or and it's so the fact that there are community organizations that, like, to me, a farmers market is an example of a system where local farmers are coming into where the people are living, or where people are coming to. People can easily congregate to shop, and it's a system that's working, and it's not working for everybody, but it's working for a lot of people.
Sure. Yep.
And you have to realize that there are systems. There's almost no system that works good for everybody.
Yep. Right.
And I remember one of the pieces of wisdom I got out of China was when Mao said, "Let 100 flowers bloom." When people were asking him about which is the best way to organize a city or a town or a campaign, and people were suggesting all these different ways, and he said, well, let's let 100 flowers bloom. Let's try them all and see which one works the best, as opposed to sitting back and judging which one works. Now, after you do that, it becomes clear which ones work the best and which ones don't.
Yep.
So then you don't keep doing that.
Yeah.
But in America, it looks like anything that you can make money at is seen as worthwhile, regardless of what it is. You're creating little widgets that are destined for the trash within a few months.
Yep.
And you make money off of creating the widget, but you're not taxed for the price of the landfill. And that's wrong. You know, in Germany, in France, people started at the supermarkets. They would unpackage their things.
Oh.
You know, like in a cereal, you get a bag of cereal inside of a box.
Right.
They would take the bag of cereal out of the box, leave the box in the store, because they didn't want to buy the box. They just wanted to buy the bag of cereal.
Right, sure.
So after doing that for a few years, they passed laws in those countries saying that, well, first of all, the companies got feedback and they started just packaging in the bag with writing on the bag instead of in a box. And there were laws passed saying that if you created trash, if your company creates something that
Right.
becomes trash, you need to pay for that.
Yep.
Pay for trash collection and disposal.
Yep.
Which is rational, makes sense.
Yep.
And that's a way of, instead of outlawing it, you're just
Right.
you're just completing the circle of expenses. You're trying to, a company that's trying to externalize expenses onto the general public needs to actually pay those expenses.
Yeah.
And that's a way of preventing those expenses from even happening, because people aren't going to create expenses they have to pay for. But if they can create an expense that somebody else has to pay for, then they'll do it.
I completely. So we were just talking beforehand about the eggs. I just did a video, last week or a couple weeks ago, about the recent egg prices going up, and the top shelf eggs, farms that are trying to do cage free, pasture raised, organic. They're directionally trying to do a more ethical animal, and their prices really haven't changed that much, and their supply hasn't changed that much. But at the bottom of the barrel, where it's like the $2 a dozen eggs, the only reason they're cheap is because they exploit the environment, the welfare of the animals, and the workers. So that's the only way that you can. So if you're buying those things, those are the ones that now, when they've killed off all the birds, the price is shot up because of the supply, and there's not enough of them. But people are paying what they're paying now for cheap eggs, what the real cost is for like the higher end eggs.
Yeah.
Like when you start to account for those external things, it's like, well, there's a cost.
I've often thought of cheap food, or cheap anything actually, is the difference in price between the low price and the high price that you're saving by buying the cheap stuff is actually a bribe that's being that you're accepting
Yeah.
to help suppress workers and animals' welfare and so forth. And people don't understand that because it's an externalized cost.
That's right. Yep. I've been thinking about that an awful lot, and so one of the
It drives you
slight.
crazy. You think about it too much. 'Cause
Well, especially when
change is so slow.
it does, and trying to figure it out. So one thing that I've been thinking about an awful lot along all these kind of threads you're talking about is like the human tendency to seek out convenience. Like, and I joke around sometimes, like ever since we invented fire, it's been a downhill race. Like it's always the next technology we need, like whether it's steel or industrial, like there's always the next technology that's supposed to make our life easier. And we just keep chasing it to the extreme. And it feels like we're just doing that now, like with all technology and everything. And I don't know where it ends other than maybe collapse.
You got to see, if you really believe in evolution, then you have to apply the natural selection principle to everything, including humans. And that means that the way evolution works is that there isn't a goal. It's trying to get better and better and better. Evolution is trying everything. It's letting 100 flowers bloom. And some work and some don't. The ones that don't reproduce as much, and they become extinct. And technology, human technology is the same way, and societies are the same way. And there's no right or wrong to it. There just is. And
I like that.
some of the things that happen, can be heartbreaking. Look at what happened to the Native Americans, and the invasiveness of the European cultures that came here. And the same thing now is happening in Israel and Palestine. Israel is like the Europeans coming in, and Palestine are like the Native Americans. And to me, the fact that Americans don't see that as the first thing they notice about the whole conflict is indicative of how blind people are to their own history, to the reality of their own history.
So at a certain point, like even if outside of war or anything like that, like it doesn't matter like what time period you kind of go into. People are always seeking out like the next thing to make their lives easier. And like there's this, even when our lives are,
of course they will.
Pretty well. So like, where does that end though? Like, do we just keep doing it just for the sake of like convenient? Like you're talking earlier, like
yes, it'll keep going with no regard to what the outcomes are.
Right.
Just like evolution. Evolution makes these, there are changes that happen in the genetics that then they get expressed in the individual that then get reproduced or not. But if in a sense you could say, well, if it gets reproduced and that's a successful organism, then that was a success.
Yeah.
Whereas if it didn't, then that was a failure. Well, let's not anthropomorphize things too much.
Right.
Because if you think about it in a cosmic scale,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it really doesn't make any difference. You know.
Yeah. Well, sure. Yeah. If we go far enough, then it doesn't matter. Yeah. So I just been thinking about that a lot, like that.
And that'll keep happening in terms of people want the convenience, but there needs to be, I think, consciousness or awareness is another thing that can guide can guide evolution.
Yep.
And the example of creating a COVID vaccine was an example of how we altered the course of evolution.
Yep.
When that virus was about to wipe many more of us out.
Yeah.
It only killed 6 million people.
Yeah.
It could have killed a whole lot more.
Yeah.
But luckily, we're on the verge of being able to create these vaccines when all of a sudden we absolutely needed to. So we went ahead and tried it, and lo and behold, it worked.
Yeah.
So we went from theory to practice in a real short time.
It's interesting. I did a video on this a while ago where they've are now genetically modifying plants to have the vaccine in it. Have you seen that? So you have a plant that has the genetic codes in it that the plant will grow and produce a vaccine, but then you've got this line between medical and genetic modification and farming kind of weaving.
As to who regulates it?
Well, I don't know. It just seems like a Wild West world when it starts getting into genetic manipulation of things.
Well, there's nothing inherently wrong with genetic manipulation, except when you think about how it's employed, who's doing it, and why are they doing it.
Yeah.
Corn, for example, is susceptible. Sweet corn is susceptible to cornea worms, and there's two of them. There's one goes in the top, one goes in the bottom of the side. But they're both caterpillars, basically. Moths lay eggs, and the caterpillars hatch and burrow into the corn.
Yeah.
One genetic manipulation is to take the genes that are in Bacillus thuringiensis and incorporate that into the corn genetics. So the corn is producing the Bt toxin that is harmless to anything except caterpillars.
Yep.
So now you're growing a corn plant that is toxic to things that were a pest to it.
Yep.
The trouble with that is that if all the corn is like that, then those insects eventually develop a resistance to it. So now you've taken the Bacillus thuringiensis, the toxin that it makes, and it's one of the few things organic growers can use against caterpillar type insects.
Yep.
And made it useless because it made it ineffective against caterpillars because you're growing so much corn that specifically breeds caterpillars to be resistant to it. Kills most of them, but you kill 99.999% of them, and the only ones that reproduce are the ones that didn't kill.
The survivors.
Yeah, only survivors reproduce. That means then they may not be totally immune to it, but they're more immune to it than they were.
Yeah.
And then it's going to kill some of those, but then there's still going to be survivors.
Yeah.
So that whole concept of killing so many of your insects with a poison, instead of standing back and figuring out a different system to work on. It could be like, don't grow big acre lots of one crop. Plant a lot of different crops together.
Yeah.
And the fact that insects are trying to hone in for the scent of a crop, they get confused because it's not this massive block of the crop giving off that scent.
Right.
It's just a few here and a few there, and they're mixed in with all these scents from these other vegetables. Now, it costs more to do that because of the way we've got our agricultural economy set up. But organic growers do it.
Sure.
And that's why organic sometimes is a little more. Sometimes it isn't, but sometimes it is.
Yeah, usually it's because you have a little bit more labor or you have more rotations. You can't just have a...
Yeah, it's a more complicated system. And that complication matches the complication of the natural environment so that it melds with it, so that things that there is corn existing in the world because not all corn gets killed by these insects. Why not? Because some of them are growing all by themselves.
Yep.
Some of them have a little bit of resistance to it.
Yep.
Some of them have, like a tighter round husk on them. In the natural world, as I said, evolution tries everything.
Yeah.
And the reason, the beauty of that, the wisdom of it is that not when you try everything, then nothing is the perfect weapon against everything. You can have, some things are always going to, get missed from the whatever disease or insect problem you have.
I feel that way a lot with like a lot of the genetic modification stuff. It's like you have one tool in the toolbox.
Yeah.
But there's always unintended consequences or things you hadn't planned on. So it's just like you're saying, if you kill off all the caterpillars and the only ones that survive present a new problem, you're always beholden to like creating the next problem or creating the next solution to that problem.
Right.
Like it's a perpetual, business model.
And yes, because you keep making money from it.
That's right.
And we need to put the chemical companies producing that need to have their interests be the same as the people who get diseases from
I agree.
things. That's caused, so that the company will see in its interest to keep people healthy, not to kill the pests on the crop.
Yeah. Well, thinking about that real slightly, because one of the questions I did want to ask, and I kind of I went on a tangent for a little bit and thinking about things.
Tangents can be fun.
So back for the farmers, thinking about organic, MOFGA, you mentioned they were early when you first moved up to Maine and started Homesteading?
They started right after we moved to Maine. In 72, 73 is when they got off the ground. It used to be MOFGA. Maine Organic Farmers Association.
Oh, okay.
And they realized that most of their members and people who were interested in them were really gardeners, not farmers.
Okay,
So they included the G, so it's Farmers and Gardeners Association.
Yeah.
And so from like 73, 74 on, they called it MOFGA.
So it was like a grassroots, just folks getting together and sharing ideas and just hanging out and go from there?
Well, yes, Extension Service was there kind of acting as the technicians.
Okay.
If you want to hold a meeting, we'll find a space for you. We'll send out the notices to all the farmers we know.
Yeah, that's cool.
All the people who express interest in it.
Yeah.
Statewide.
Yeah.
We'll do it. We can do it regionally too. So they had the Cooperative Extension had this network that they were able to plug into to help organizations like MOFGA spread the word until the organization has its own wherewithal to be able to do it themselves.
Gotcha.
And then Extension gets out of it because they get other stuff to do.
Yeah, sure.
And they did the same thing with the Maine Federation of Farmers Markets.
Okay.
They sent out notices to all the farmers and small farmers and farmers markets across the state to get the federation going for a few times.
Yeah.
And they did it with the help of the Department of Agriculture.
Oh, that's cool.
Agriculture supplied the names, the Extension sent out the notices. So that's a thing that Extension does. So that helped us out. But it was mostly the target audience was anyone interested in natural foods, organic gardening and organic farming.
Sure.
Living better, more healthy, and so forth.
Yeah.
Now that included some that were a bit off the track, like the Demeter Association.
Yep.
The biodynamic people who were kind of interested, but no, they didn't. They weren't really organic.
Sure.
Some of the things they have are they look at things differently. But mostly that's what it grew from is the farmers and gardeners. And natural foods people wanting a healthier diet to getting together and creating this organization.
And they're just starting out with like a list of what we're against and what we're for.
Yeah, and certification was like a goal.
Okay.
Being able to say, we've looked at this farm and they are organic.
Right.
So it's not just the farmer say, oh, I'm organic. I use cow shit, I'm organic.
Yeah.
And because that may be the only organic thing they do. And the certification became a major focus, but then when the fair started in when was it, 78 or so, they realized, this can be not only a gathering point, but a source of income.
Sure.
So it becomes and it turns out to be a marketplace.
Yeah.
So if you grow organic stuff, you can sell it to the people who are going to, make organic onion rings.
Everyone comes together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And you can charge admission at the gate, and
Yep.
charge the vendors to set up, and
Yep.
so they did it for several years. At first it was at Litchfield and then Windsor. They would rent fairgrounds in the fairgrounds off season.
Yep.
They'd rent it for like 3-day weekend.
Yep.
Which was actually like a week set up and a week cleanup
Sure.
afterwards. But it was to be an active fair for 3 days.
Yep.
And then some of the fairgrounds, like I remember one, I think it was Windsor. It was a really rainy weekend, and there were 6-inch deep puddles in front of some of the stands.
Oh my goodness.
So, and they'd come out with, they put a pallet down in the puddles so people could walk around. It was, and of course the fairgrounds people weren't interested in doing the maintenance. The people who owned the fairgrounds weren't interested in doing the maintenance, so that kind of stuff didn't happen.
Sure.
So eventually in 99, 98, 99, 98, I think that MOFGA bought its own place, an old potato farm in Unity. And in 99, they moved the fair to their own place. It was kind of funky the first year, but it was a lot better than it was in any other place.
Wow.
Because they had done so much prep work, because they had done fairs for 10, 15 years now already, and they knew what they wanted and what they didn't want.
That makes sense. So you've been doing them right along. You've been doing the Common Ground Fair for quite a while then, the whole way through, pretty much.
No.
Oh, no?
No, I've set up there selling peanuts.
Yeah?
We would bring in boxes of, for a couple of years I did this, boxes of peanuts, you shell them out.
Yeah?
You can buy a 25-pound box, and we bought 5 or 6 of them and set them up, and just, you get a whole handful. Anybody get a handful of peanuts for like 50 cents. Handful of peanuts. 50
That's
cents.
Awesome.
So, of course, kids would bring Dad over. He has bigger hands.
Of course.
It was fun to watch that. But, all you can pick up with 2 hands, 50 cents.
Oh, my goodness. But their eyes open up.
Well, it was the thing, because food was really expensive there, and they were like very fancy foods.
Sure.
So we were just selling peanuts.
Sure.
And so many people can use those.
Oh, yeah.
Well, nowadays, I don't know, with peanut allergies, but
Oh, right. Sure.
which is weird. The whole thing that there are so many allergies people have should be a warning that something is wrong with our food system.
Have you seen a change?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
You used to, occasionally you hear, maybe once every 5 years you'd hear about somebody get a peanut allergy.
No kidding.
Now you hear it all the time.
Yeah.
Peanut or milk, was it casein?
Yep.
Or gluten.
Yep.
Why are these things? These are basic foods.
Right.
Why? Now you can kind of see why casein in milk, because adult animals mostly don't drink milk, but
Right.
and there are people who don't drink milk after infancy.
Right.
Populations in the world that have a milk intolerance.
Yep.
Because
Sure.
they just develop it because they haven't eaten it before, haven't
Yeah.
eaten it for years.
Right.
But the fact that those are all occurring now are kind of an example of the system falling apart. And in a way, it's sorry to see the system fall apart around you. But on the other hand, if you realize the system is rotten, you got to cheer on the fact that finally it's starting to be over.
That's kind of the way that I feel in some ways.
The end is beginning finally. And now, even though it ain't going to be pretty,
Nope.
and it's not going to be fun for anyone.
No.
But it is, if you look at it historically, every time an empire has fallen, even the people in the empire have been better off after a while.
Yep. I've always found too, of course I didn't live through the Depression, but you see families in rural areas seem to be able to weather the storm better than if you're in a city. If you're beholden to others for all your stuff, then you're stuck. You're at the whims of everything else. But if you're able to produce some portion of your own things, you can at least ride out some storms much better.
Yeah, I think part of that is when you're in a city, it's very difficult to understand all the systems that supply you.
Yeah, everything.
You just have to take it on faith that there's going to be a cab when you need it, and there's going to be food in the store when you need it, and there's, electricity is going to work. And when you're living in the country, you become much more aware of how all the things work. Like, where does your water come from? My
Right.
water comes from a hole in the ground right over there. You know? Yeah, but I need electricity, though, to get it, you know, unless I buy a $900
Right.
pump. But
But you have that
So-
space as well, and you can go out and do things. Like I've always seen that, like I've read stories about like the Depression, where there are some families that their regular way of life was Depression-like. Like it never really changed. It was like another day.
they hardly noticed it.
Right, because they were already impoverished and poor in some ways, or just the way they were living. Whereas in the cities, if
And
you're
they
a
had no money
consumer,
in the stock market.
right? If you're a consumer, like a pure consumer, that's one of my aversions to the city is like you're beholden to everything you need for your energy and your food, and you're just a consumer, not a producer of anything, hardly, except for whatever your labor is for whatever job you're doing. But at least you have the resources in a rural setting, forests or trees, or you could, even if you're not utilizing them instantly, you could make the potential's there, much more so.
And the other potential that's in the country, in the rural area, is there are multiple seasonal jobs.
Yeah.
There are many people who do different things at different times of year.
Yep.
And in the city, that's really true.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you know, if you work, you know, and you're maintaining the streets, you know, yeah, you're patching roads one time of the year, you're plowing roads another time of year, you're sweeping roads another time of year, you know, washing roads another time of year. But most people in the city are not affected, their work is not affected seasonally.
Right.
Whereas a lot of people in the country, if they're not commuting to work,
Yep.
then they do different things at different seasons.
Yep. A lot of skilled trades. Yep. Those make a difference. And
There's certain, you're a roofer. There's certain months you don't work on roofs.
right, yeah.
It could be middle of summer. It could be middle of winter. But so you get something else to do. It's not like you're unemployed that time.
Right.
After you've done it for a few years, you figure out what you can do in your off season for your other job.
I'm a big advocate. I think that like kind of a ways back, I was mentioning like what it might look like in the future, like a system. And I feel like part of that key to sustainability is less cities. I mean, people are going to do whatever they want, but like a more sustainable system would have more of a rural aspect to it, almost like where people would back out on farms again and spread out in neighborhoods, because the more concentrated you get into a city, well, like you mentioned Rome not too long ago, like to follow the Roman Republic, you have this center place
No,
where you
the
have,
Roman Republic didn't fall. It turned into an empire. The Roman Empire fell.
and so like, but you have all the outskirts where it's like all this farming just to support the city, and like all these out, and then you have like farther out and it's like every civilization has a center where it's like they can't produce, things have to come in from the outside.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
Pretty
why not
soon
be on the
people-
outside where things are produced?
People on the outside pretty soon say, "The heck with this."
Well, that's and so there's something about that, but there's this every civilization goes through that peak where they just want to expand, or there's different opportunities, and they all do collapse at some point.
And that's why, to me, Europe is a real interesting example, because they used to fight each other all the time. And I heard somebody in the European Union the other day saying, we used to be each other's enemies, and now we're each other's friends.
Yep.
We've got interlocking economies, and
Yep.
each country still has their own language, their own economies, but they're so interlinked with all the other economies
Yep.
in Europe
Yep.
that I'm wondering if at some point they have to deal with their own intricacies and differences so much that keeps them occupied
Yep.
and getting consensus between the Greeks and the Irish and the Poles and the Spanish.
Yep.
How do you have to have a really good idea for everyone to agree.
And good communication.
Yeah, and the fact that English, which is not even part of it, is one of the common languages,
Right.
is a artifact of the British Empire.
Yeah. I think of that a lot, that kind of like, all right, at least for myself, and part of Agrarian Matters has been going through that, like, what kind of world do I want to see versus like, you're doing things wrong, or you're doing things wrong. Like, what do I actually want to see, and how would it actually work out as a way to be like, oh, and how can I embody that more?
Well, the mistake is to find something that works on a smaller scale and scale it up.
Yeah.
assuming that it can be scaled up.
Right.
If you think about how life works,
Yep.
An infant grows to a certain point, to an adult, and then they stop growing,
Yep.
right? If they were not to stop growing, they were to keep growing. Well, we call that cancer.
Right.
Right. So cancer is like life that's growing and expanding with no control on it.
Yep.
And that's basically what any system that's designed to keep expanding without controls, basically
Right.
that's almost a definition of a cancer.
Yeah.
So I think one of the best ideas, if you want to make more of humanity,
Yeah.
you don't make humans bigger,
Right.
you make more humans.
Yep.
Right? So when you get a system that works good on a small scale, like a farmer's market,
Yep.
you make more farmers markets.
Right.
You don't make the farmers market really big, so it's got thousands of farmers in it, and everybody has to come from miles to
Right.
it, because that doesn't work anymore.
Right. It's inefficient.
It becomes inefficiency because it's efficient in the sense there's only one system, and that the dollar volume is great,
Yep.
and the sales volume is great, but it doesn't work for people that are working in it.
Yep.
People it's affecting, it's not working for them.
Yep.
So if you have a system where it works for the people making the system work, and it works for the people that are interacting with the system, and they all like that,
Yep.
well, you don't make it bigger, you make
Right.
more of them.
Right. Right. Just duplicate it.
Right. But then you have to be careful because cloning is not necessarily the thing to do. What you want to do is to take the central ideas, like abstract what that is
Right.
about, and then spread that idea
Yeah.
to see if other people want to take that idea and organize it the way they see fit.
Yep.
A community of Native Americans and a community of Cuban refugees are going to organize their
Sure.
local food co-op differently.
Yep.
Cultural differences. That's
Yeah.
okay. And there are people who aren't in that culture may actually benefit from it and like
Right.
going to that because that's cool. It's something different.
Yeah, and usually it's great when you get down to that, like something really fundamental, where it's like, well, what are we both trying to get to? Like, we're both trying to like have freedom to do what we want, make sure that we have enough food to eat. Kids want stuff. We want to go on vacation. Whatever it is. Usually people are all kind of. I feel like humans are relatively aligned, like what we want, like a base level.
Yeah.
But then like every society gets its own quirks and it changes it.
Well, you get scam artists like
that's
the
true,
shamans
too.
and priests that try to
Yep.
change what people want.
Yep. And then just bad actors.
Oh, yeah.
And there's just like straight up, and so those always have to be accounted for too. Which, yeah, I guess I don't know. I guess maybe lately I've just been feeling kind of like a Luddite and like wanting to pump the brakes on expansion because nothing expands forever, and like every system you just doesn't ever continually expand without issues. So it's kind of like wanting to like almost back up some and go back and try to account for those kind of things like that.
You have to deal with the fact that there has to be a system that works on a large scale, even though that system may be very decentralized.
And I think it'd be great.
Right? Having a decentralized system, and that's in a sense that's what when America started, it tried to be that. So the states had a certain amount of power, and the federal had a certain amount of power, and because they were coming from a monarchy background, they wanted to really minimize the federal power.
Right.
And then over time, the feds increased that power.
Yep.
But part of that reason for increase was because the states were doing stuff wrong.
Yep. Right.
And when you have slavery and Jim Crow laws,
Yep.
but then there are other things. So if the feds try to tamp that back, try to eliminate that from the society, they did it from a top-down manner, which is like they almost fought grassroots activism,
Right.
trying to make it happen, and
Yep.
sort of adopted. If that's what the grassroots activists want, we'll impose it from above
Sure.
and get those votes.
Yep.
And clearly that doesn't work. I
Right.
mean, it can be made to work for a while, but eventually,
Short term.
you haven't solved people's problems. You've made people behave a certain way.
Absolutely. Yep. You got compliance, but not buy-in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yep. I agree.
So.
Yeah, I don't know.
This doesn't have a whole lot to do with farming, but
No, I appreciate all the philosophy. So one thing I will kind of wrap up with then with you.
it's kind of why we're farming.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that because it gets intertwined a lot. It's
Yeah.
all when you start thinking about energy and efficiency and systems and all the parts that are all intertwined. But one question I wanted to ask you before we go, though, was back to MOFGA. Was you're in a new project now, Real Organic, or affiliated with it?
Yeah, we're certified by Real Organic Project, which is we're also certified by MOFGA.
Right. Yep.
And you have to be certified by a local certifier in order to be eligible for the Real Organic Project.
And so, what is Real?
The Real Organic Project is like, first of all, you have to be organic, and then you also have to not grow things that aren't in contact with the soil.
Okay.
And you have to not confine your animals.
Right.
So no CAFOs,
Yep.
no hydroponics.
Yep. Gotcha.
Those are the basic things. There's a few other stuff, but the whole idea is that the very reason for the beginning of the organic movement is embodied in the Real Organic Project people,
Yep.
and not in the USDA organic program.
Gotcha.
USDA organic pretty much feels that organic is a marketing tool, not an agricultural system.
Gotcha.
Whereas the Real Organic Project says, no, it's a production system, and first.
Yep. Yep.
And then the marketing. Once you do that, the marketing takes care of itself.
Yep. It sounds so like Real Organic's more of like also more of a philosophical foundation.
Well, the reason
Less marketing, but more like it has something more substance to it.
Well, they also have we put Real Organic Project stickers on all of our signs. At the
I've seen them. That's what. Yeah, I was kind of curious.
So that's it is marketing too. It's just that it's not. It doesn't see organic as essentially marketing,
Right.
and everything else is like to the service of the marketing aspect. They see it as it's essentially a production method where you treat animals humanely and you
Right.
grow things in the soil,
Yep.
not in synthetic media.
Right.
But plus being organic,
Yep.
plus being certified organic. So if you're a hydroponic organic grower, like Driscoll Strawberries is,
Yep.
then you can't get ROP certified.
And that makes sense, especially with the it's like the extra, an add-on label.
Yeah, that's what they call it, an add-on label.
It seems like there's like the labels of lately have grown quite a bit because there's like Beyond Organic. I'm not sure if that's an official label, but I've heard that term. And then you have like no-till and pasture-raised and like natural grown. Regenerative was another one. Yep. And there's been a
Real Organic Project has a newsletter where they address a lot of those things,
oh really?
and they have talks by various people at Real Organic Project conferences around the country, and the newsletter has like quotes from them or little speeches. And it's pretty interesting. It's sort of, I learn a lot from it.
Yeah.
In terms of, that's the way I should be thinking about that. I can tell. That's what I meant to think.
I think I've listened to a couple of a fellow named Dave. I forget his last.
Dave Chapman. Probably.
Yep. Yeah, I think it was, he had a couple podcasts. I've listened to him a few times here and there, but just wasn't really super familiar on like how it kind of branched off and how it was different from MOFGA, if it was a separate thing or how tight they still were, or just where the lines are drawn.
Yeah, MOFGA purposely doesn't say anything about it.
Okay.
Because they have to be towing the USDA line in order to be a certifier.
Oh, okay,
Right?
yep.
And they're certifier for Maine and New Hampshire.
Yep.
They used to be a New Hampshire NOFA, but they were pretty not very organized. So and there's even some Quebec growers
Yeah.
that want the USDA organic label that get certified through MOFGA.
Huh, interesting.
And there's some Maine farms that use QAI, the Quality Assurance International, because that's a lot looser.
Oh, interesting. Oh, sure.
In terms of how inspections happen, and just sign here that you follow all the organic rules. Okay, they're inspected.
And then you can mark it as
USDA organic. That's why I never use a USDA organic label.
Right.
I use the MOFGA certified label.
Yep.
Even though it's essentially the same thing.
Sure.
But it's like saying it's locally certified.
A little more connection to, yeah.
Maine, yeah.
Yeah, anytime you can start, I'm a big advocate for anytime people can do for themselves and then start going outwards as close to home as possible.
Yeah.
The farther away you have to go, the more labels start to really matter. But the closer you can get to the source, the more they may or may not matter. It's that distance apart that seems to make a difference.
Your name is your label when it's hyper local.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. So I guess the last one for you. So you're 78 now.
Yeah.
How many more years have you got farming? Or where are we going
the
for?
good Lord knows that.
Another 78 with,
Yeah, right.
with GE technology now. It's coming.
I remember when I was 50 years old, I said, halfway there.
Right?
I don't know. It kind of depends on, I'm basically retired now. I putter.
Yeah.
I help out with stuff.
Yeah.
And can do a little bit, but I probably couldn't do enough to support myself.
Yep.
At least without major rethinking of how the whole operation works.
Sure.
And there's a few things that I've started that require fairly minimal maintenance, like the grapes. They need pruning and harvesting.
Yep.
And a little bit of mulching, and that's it. Occasionally repairing the trellises, but the arbors.
Yeah.
But in the rhubarb patch,
Yeah.
that doesn't need a lot.
Sure.
But there are some things that need a lot more. So that's why I'm looking to have people who are interested in farming.
Yeah.
To work and learn here, or even live here.
Yeah.
And that's without that. Right now, we get Lois's 2 daughters helping out.
Yep.
And they have their own life, and they
Sure.
have to commute up from Augusta. So I can't see how they can do that, but they've been doing it for a long time now. So, so that's a question I really haven't answered to myself as to how long I can keep going. But I'm looking to see what I can do.
Sure.
I'm still splitting my own firewood and cutting a lot of it. And,
That's awesome. Keeps you young.
well, so far it hasn't worked.
So but it'd be nice, but you're not looking at necessarily slowing down and shutting the farm down as much as maybe looking for somebody to come in and then maybe even apprentice and maybe.
Yeah, the trouble is.
Would that be an ideal?
Yeah, that would be. But the trouble is, this is not an ideal place to farm.
Okay. Yeah.
It's it can be farmed.
Yep.
But not as easily as some other places because it's not flat. Most of our fields, a lot of them aren't square.
Yep.
Some are on a bit of a hill.
Yep.
On the other hand, it has some advantages.
Sure.
It's fairly close to town. It's not right on the road.
Yeah, right off the interstate.
Yeah, close to the interstate, close to town. So we've got more advantages than some places and less advantages than others.
Yep.
So a lot of it depends on how anybody who is going to take over here would have to understand what those advantages and disadvantages are and be willing to work with that as part of the package.
Yep.
It's not just, how to grow a row of carrots, but, the whole package. One of the reasons I liked moving here was that there was plenty of woods.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And not just for the isolation it provides from the neighbors, but
Yep.
the fact that it provides a source of sugar and firewood.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, a nice cedar patch out there, and the deer are all through it, and I like.
We got cedar, we got maple, we got a lot of spruce.
Yeah.
So.
Well, if I can I'll put the message out there, and if anybody I know, I'll send them your way.
Okay.
And hopefully give you a hand. And I'll probably wrap it up there because I've probably taken up enough of your time for the morning, so I'll let you get on with lunch, and we'll go from there. So thanks a lot for sitting down and answering my questions and humoring me for a little bit.
You're quite welcome. It's good for the questions made me think of stuff that I haven't really thought of much before, and the mental exercise is quite appreciated.
Oh, sure. Do you want me to send, if folks want to reach out to you, how do you want them to get a hold of you? To go to your website or go any place in particular?
Yeah. Website it both tells about the farm and has all my contact information on it.
Okay.
Yeah, snakeroot.net/farm.
Okay, yeah, and I'll put a link however I can inside everything so folks can get in, and we'll go from there. Thanks, Tom.
And send me a link to this video.
I will, for sure. Thanks,
I'll
man.
link to it from my website.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Anything we can do to let folks know, if they can help them out, then great, then awesome. Thank you, man.
Welcome.